Jesus and Simon Peter are reconciled. Reflections on John's Gospel, chapter 21, verses 1 to 14. After denying the Lord several times the day before Jesus was executed, and knowing that he had died a gruesome death, I believe Simon Peter must have been guttered. He disappears almost completely from early Easter accounts, and had probably gone into hiding and mourning, beating himself up. Simon, who was very vocal and sometimes would even put his foot in it, disappears from prominence. He had let himself and Jesus down massively. And so in one of the earliest sacred Easter tales, Mark's Gospel, we find that Mary Magdalene and some other women disciples were tasked especially to seek Peter out and to tell him that he would meet Jesus in a place they both loved, the Sea of Galilee. It must have been hard for Peter to believe that he would see Jesus again. Resurrection, after all, takes a certain kind of consciousness, mind and heart. Something needs to fall from us. The proverbial penny needs to drop. It must have been hard for Peter to believe that Jesus would even want to see him again. And so perhaps his heart wrestled with a lot. Galilee was his go-to place, his shelter. And was he even to believe what Mary Magdalene and the other women had said? Jesus will meet you, Peter, in a place you both love. In this morning's Gospel, we find Simon Peter and others at the Sea of Galilee, the place he and Jesus loved. I suspect the others wanted to come alongside Peter in his broken-heartedness, disappointment and grief. Even though Thomas, Nathanael and the two unnamed others knew very little about fishing, they were there to support this rock who clearly wasn't doing very well. Peter was also restless and found it difficult to sit around doing nothing, irrespective of what his wife or even his mother-in-law told him. So that night after dinner, Simon Peter said to them, "I'm going fishing. In other words, let me tinker in the garage. Let me do what I'm good at. Perhaps that will just be a distraction, make me feel better, bring me back to some sense of self-worth." The others, being supportive, his wing persons, said, "We'll go as well." So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. The adage, "It never rains but pours," rings true. All the wheels must have fallen off the wagon. Then just after daybreak, Jesus stood on the beach, but his disciples did not know it was Jesus. He said to them, "Children, you have no fish, have you?" They answered, "No." And here I need to make a special point, because grown Jewish Palestinian men would never allow themselves to be called children, let alone respond. As jy mal, ek is jou kindie. But what I think the gospel writer is trying to emphasize is firstly, that it takes a certain kind of trust and childlikeness to truly have an experience of Jesus. So he said to them, and they listened, "Cast the net to the other side of the boat and you will find some." So they trusted him and found so many. Secondly, I think the gospel writer is emphasizing that love is the key to seeing the risen Lord. So the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "My goodness, Peter, look, it is the Lord." When Peter heard that it was the Lord, he was so overjoyed that he jumped into the sea, and he wasn't really a good swimmer. What the women had said was true, and Simon Peter was not going to let anything stand in his way, not even his fears. The others followed, hauling the fish. When they had gone ashore, they saw a charcoal fire there with fish on it and bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you have just caught." Simon Peter, having found his strength and legs again, hauled the net ashore. Jesus said to them, "Come, have breakfast with me." Now none of the disciples dared ask him, "Who are you?" because they knew in their hearts, through insight, hints, and intuitions, through what had fallen from their eyes, that it was the Lord who had come to them in the ordinary, making breakfast. Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. This was now the third time that Jesus appeared to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. "Eat," Jesus said. So they ate. They cried. Nathanael kissed him and said quietly, "You have a way of always finding us, finding me." Jesus looked across lovingly at Peter and said, "Walk with me?"